Have you ever wondered if there are, genuinely effective ways to really transform how you feel and perform day to day? We're not talking about quick fixes or like the latest wellness fad here. We're diving into the surprising power of small, consistent daily habits, things that can profoundly shift your mental clarity, your energy, even how you handle stress.
That's exactly right. We've looked at a whole range of sources for this: neuroscience papers, practical guides, you name it. The goal is to highlight specific habits that actually literally rewire your brain, regulate hormones, and sort of boost your baseline motivation naturally.
Yeah.
I want to give you a shortcut to understanding this stuff, pointing out some surprising facts and really clear, actionable steps. These can lead to some profound, long-term changes for both mind and body.
Okay, so where do we even start on this path? It sounds like it begins, well, right when you wake up, with something that feels almost deceptively simple. Morning sunlight. I mean, it sounds way too easy to be that powerful, right? But our bodies, they evolved with the sun.
Oh, it's absolutely foundational.
Oh.
It's all about syncing up your circadian rhythm. That's your internal body clock, roughly 24 hours. And it governs pretty much everything: sleep, mood, hormones, metabolism, you name it. And the way it works is fascinating. Your eyes have these specialized cells. They're not for seeing images, but specifically for detecting light to set this clock. They're super sensitive to the blue light that's particularly abundant in morning sunlight. When that light hits them, bam, they send a signal straight to your brain's master clock, deep inside.
Okay, so light hits the eyes, signal goes to the brain clock. What happens then? What's the immediate effect? Like the first domino?
Right, so that signal does more than just wake you up mentally. It triggers a healthy, timed pulse of cortisol. Now, cortisol often gets this bad reputation, stress hormone and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
But this early morning spike is actually really good for you. It's like nature's alarm clock boosts alertness, focus. And critically, it sets the timer for melatonin release later on, like 12 to 16 hours later, which is key for helping you sleep soundly that night.
Ah, I see. So the morning light directly impacts your sleep quality later.
Precisely. And the intensity of the light matters hugely. Natural sunlight, even on a cloudy day, can be, say, 10,000 lux or way, way more. Your indoor lights, they rarely get above maybe 1,000 lux. Big difference.
Wow. Okay.
That's why getting outside, or at least being near an open window, is so important. Sunglasses off, if possible.
And there's another piece here, isn't there? Something about motivation. How does morning light link to dopamine?
Yes. This is really interesting. Morning light exposure actually increases dopamine levels, particularly in brain areas involved in motivation and reward, like the striatum. It gives you this sustained natural boost. It's not like caffeine where you get a spike and crash. This helps establish a positive, motivated state for the entire day.
So you actually feel more upbeat, more clear-headed?
Many people report exactly that, yeah. And there's solid biology behind it. It primes your brain to pursue goals and feel good about it.
Okay, so for you listening, the practical takeaway seems pretty straightforward. Try to get about 5 to 10 minutes of direct sunlight in your eyes within the first hour or so of waking up. Outside is best, no sunglasses. Prescription glasses or contacts are fine, though.
Right. And if it's dark out or the weather's impossible, a bright light therapy lamp, one that's 10,000 lux, can be a decent substitute. But think of it as a backup. Always try to get the real thing when you can. It just sets such a powerful foundation for the day.
Okay, so we've set the stage with light. Let's build on that. What's next? Something else we all know is good for us, but maybe we don't appreciate how good, especially for the brain, daily movement. And it's way more than just burning calories, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Movement triggers this incredibly complex cascade of events affecting brain chemistry, hormones, even how your genes are expressed. It literally changes your brain structure and function over time. One of the star players here is BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
BDNF. I've heard it called miracle grow for the brain.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. TDNF helps neurons survive, it encourages new connections between them, synapses, and it's vital for learning and memory. Regular movement, especially things like brisk walking or running, significantly boosts BDNF levels. And get this, consistent movement can actually increase the volume of your hippocampus.
The hippocampus, that's the memory center, right, and emotions.
Exactly. So you're literally building a bigger, better brain region for learning and emotional regulation just by moving your body regularly. Pretty amazing.
Okay, that's structural change. How does that translate into how you actually feel day to day? Mood, focus?
Well, movement is a fantastic natural regulator of key neurotransmitters. Think dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. It helps create this state of alert calm. You feel focused but not anxious.
Balance.
It's basically a natural antidepressant and anti-anxiety tool because it helps restore that neurochemical balance and makes your brain more resilient to stress.
Even short bursts help.
Definitely. Even just a 10-minute brisk walk can give you an immediate boost in attention and executive function. That's partly because it increases blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, your brain's CEO, responsible for planning and decision-making.
And it seems like it's training your nervous system too, like teaching it how to handle stress.
That's a really important point. When you exercise, you activate the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mode. Heart rate goes up, you breathe faster. But then when you stop and recover, your body shifts into the parasympathetic rest and digest state. Doing this regularly, this oscillation between states, trains your nervous system to be more flexible, more adaptable.
So you get better at shifting gears from being on to being calm.
Exactly, which is a hallmark of resilience. And the key here really is consistency over intensity. You don't need to run marathons.
Yeah.
20, 30 minutes of walking most days, or finding something you enjoy like dancing, yoga, weights, sports, that builds these positive feedback loops in your brain that reinforce the habit and the benefits.
Okay, so we've got light, we've got movement, but we live in such a go-go-go world, always doing. What about actively undoing, hitting a reset button without actually falling asleep? I hear this term NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. What's that about?
NSDR is a category of practices, things like yoga nidra, or specific types of guided hypnosis or meditation scripts. Essentially, they guide you into a state of profound relaxation while you stay consciously awake. You're deliberately shifting your nervous system into that parasympathetic rest and digest mode, which is optimal for recovery and, interestingly, for neuroplasticity, for learning and changing the brain.
Fascinating. So we know sleep helps consolidate memories, makes learning stick. How does NSDR do something similar while you're awake?
Yeah, it's remarkable. Research, particularly using brain imaging, shows that during NSDR, the brain can replay and strengthen neural pathways related to things you've recently learned or focused on. It seems to accelerate that consolidation process, helping you retain information better and reducing that feeling of mental fatigue or neural load after intense concentration.
So it helps you learn faster or deeper?
It seems to enhance the retention and integration of what you've learned. Plus, physiologically, it's doing great things. Slowing heart rate, deepening breathing, lowering cortisol back into its healthy range. And another really cool benefit? It seems to increase the sensitivity of your dopamine receptors, meaning your brain becomes better at receiving the signal of dopamine. So the motivation and pleasure you get from everyday activities can feel more rewarding, more impactful. It helps restore your capacity for drive and enjoyment.
Okay, so how does someone actually do this? Yoga Nidra, you mentioned. What does that involve?
It's usually very simple for the user. You just lie down comfortably in a quiet place, close your eyes, and listen to a guided script. The script typically takes you through body awareness, breath focus, and specific visualizations designed to induce deep relaxation. One key thing it does is quiet down the default mode network in the brain.
That's the part that chatters away, right? Mind-wandering, rumination.
Exactly. So NSDR helps turn down the volume on that internal noise, creating space for calm and insight.
And when would you use it?
It's incredibly versatile. You can do a short 10 or 20-minute session right after a period of intense work, or learning to help lock it in and recover faster. Or use it before bed if your mind is racing, to help ease into sleep. Some people even find it helpful first thing in the morning if they wake up feeling anxious or wired, to help regulate their nervous system for the day ahead.
Wow, that's really flexible.
Yeah, and it requires no special equipment, just a quiet spot and maybe some headphones. It's a very accessible tool for managing mental energy and stress.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Our minds can feel so cluttered sometimes, like an overflowing email inbox, right? Just thoughts swirling around. What about the simple act of writing things down? Journaling, can that really make a difference in clearing things out, like a mental defrag?
It's actually a surprisingly sophisticated cognitive process. When you journal, you're taking internal thoughts and feelings and giving them an external form.
Yeah.
It engages language centers, usually more active in the left brain hemisphere, while also accessing emotional and memory networks, often associated with the right hemisphere.
So it connects different parts of the brain.
Exactly. It promotes better integration, helping you make sense of complex experiences. Plus, the act of writing things down, reflecting on them, engages your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. That's the part involved in higher-level thinking, rational evaluation, planning. It allows you to step back a bit from the raw emotion and look at things more objectively.
Okay, so it helps with clarity, but does it actually physically calm you down? Can it affect your stress response, that fight or flight system?
Yes, it definitely can, particularly evening journaling. Think about it. Your brain often keeps looping on unresolved worries or experiences from the day, right? That can keep your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, activated.
Leading to racing thoughts at night, maybe waking up anxious.
Precisely. By writing down those concerns, reflecting on the day, maybe noting things you're grateful for, you're essentially signaling to your brain that these items have been acknowledged, processed to some degree. This can help reduce that amygdala reactivity, allowing your nervous system to shift more easily into a parasympathetic state, which is crucial for falling asleep and getting restorative rest.
Are there different kinds of journaling that have different effects?
Yeah, research highlights a few. Expressive writing, where you really delve into your thoughts and feelings about significant events, has been linked to reduced anxiety and depression symptoms, better immune function, even improved working memory. Then there's gratitude journaling, simply listing things you're thankful for. This has been shown to activate reward pathways in the brain and can shift your overall mood towards more optimism.
And it also sounds like a way to practice self-awareness, like asking yourself, what did I learn today? Or how could I approach that differently?
Absolutely. That metacognitive aspect, thinking about your own thinking, is huge. It trains self-monitoring and promotes growth. And doing this reflection in the evening really does support sleep quality. By processing the day's events before bed, you lessen the burden on your brain's overnight cleanup and consolidation processes,
So you fall asleep faster, sleep deeper.
and wake up feeling clearer and more refreshed. The key, like with most of these habits, is consistency and finding a method that works for you. It doesn't need to be fancy. Just a few minutes can make a difference.
Okay, this next one, it generates a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
And maybe makes some people a little apprehensive. Deliberate cold exposure, cold showers, ice baths. Why would anyone do that? But the science seems pretty compelling.
It really is. It's a prime example of what scientists call hormesis, or hormetic stress. Short bursts of manageable stress that actually make your system stronger and more resilient in the long run. So when you hit that cold water, sensors in your skin immediately signal your brain. This activates the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response.
So heart rate goes up, breathing quickens.
Exactly. Blood vessels near the skin constrict to keep your core warm. In a controlled setting, this isn't dangerous, but it's a definite jolt to the system. It sharpens focus, makes you feel incredibly alert, and ramps up metabolic activity.
Okay, that's the immediate shock. But what about the deeper, more lasting effects, particularly in the brain?
This is where it gets really interesting. One of the most significant effects is on neurotransmitters, especially dopamine. Studies have shown that cold water immersion can cause dopamine levels to increase by as much as 250% over baseline.
Wow, 250%.
Yeah. And importantly, unlike some artificial stimulants, this dopamine increase seems to be gradual and sustained, lasting for hours after you get out of the cold.
So it's not a quick spike and crash.
Exactly. It provides this prolonged feeling of well-being, focus, and motivation. And then there's norepinephrine, also known as noradrenaline. Levels can surge even more dramatically, sometimes over 500%.
And norepinephrine is about alertness, vigilance, mood.
Precisely. So that combination of sustained dopamine and norepinephrine surge explains why people often report feeling incredibly awake, clear-headed, and almost euphoric after cold exposure. It's a potent, natural way to boost mental energy.
It also sounds like a serious mental challenge. People talk about mental toughness. Is it literally training your brain to handle discomfort?
It absolutely is. Every time you consciously choose to step into that cold, overriding your instinct to seek comfort, you're strengthening the top-down control circuits in your brain, particularly involving the prefrontal cortex.
The decision-making part.
Right, you're building willpower and resilience. And physiologically, while the initial response involves stress hormones like cortisol, regular practice seems to lead to lower baseline cortisol levels and a blunted cortisol response to other stressors throughout the day.
So it makes you less reactive to everyday stress.
That seems to be the case. It improves your stress resilience. We also see improvements in heart rate variability, HRV, which is a key marker of your nervous system's ability to adapt and recover.
Okay, mental benefits, stress resilience. What about physical changes? I've heard it can affect metabolism, even body fat.
Yes, that's another fascinating area. Cold exposure activates brown adipose tissue, or BAT.
Brown fat. I thought fat was, well, not good.
But brown fat is different. It's packed with mitochondria, the energy factors of cells, and its main job is to burn energy, specifically fat and glucose, to generate heat. It's metabolically active fat.
So getting cold makes you burn more calories.
Yes, by activating this brown fat. And the norepinephrine release during cold exposure can also trigger a process called browning, where regular white fat cells start to behave more like brown fat cells, becoming more metabolically active. There's even this idea called the Suberg principle,
Which is?
getting out of the cold while you're still cold and letting your body warm itself up naturally, primarily through shivering. Shivering itself seems to release molecules that further promote this beneficial fat browning.
Interesting. So don't immediately jump into a hot shower or wrap up in towels.
For maximizing those metabolic effects, letting your body rewarm itself seems key.
Okay, people listening might be thinking, all right, maybe I'll try it, but how cold? How long? Does it mess with workouts?
Good questions. Temperature-wise, it needs to be uncomfortably cold, enough to make you want to get out, but safe to stay in. This varies a lot person to person. For duration, consistency beats intensity. Even just 1 to 3 minutes at the end of your regular shower, done consistently, can yield benefits. If you're doing full immersion like an ice bath, aiming for a total of about 11 minutes per week, broken up into maybe 2 to 4 sessions, seems to be a good target for metabolic benefits based on some research. Water around 50-60 degrees Fahrenheit or 10-15 Celsius.
And what about your mindset while you're in there? Just grit your teeth.
Trying to stay calm, focusing on slow, deep breaths can actually help you adapt and trains that mental resilience we talked about. Some people even try doing simple cognitive tasks, like math problems, while in the cold to practice maintaining focus under stress. Moving around a bit breaks the thermal layer near your skin and makes it feel colder, intensifying the stimulus.
Timing. Does it matter when you do it?
Doing it earlier in the day is generally recommended. We'll touch on why when we talk about sleep. Some evidence suggests doing it fasted, or maybe having caffeine an hour or two beforehand, might enhance fat burning, but that's less established.
Okay, and the workout question, especially for muscle gain.
Right, this is important. If your primary goal is building muscle size or strength, hypertrophy, the evidence suggests you should probably avoid deliberate cold water immersion for up to 4 hours after your training session.
Why is that?
The cold seems to blunt some of the inflammatory and signaling pathways that are actually necessary for muscle repair and growth after resistance training.
But what about for other types of training? Endurance, skill work.
For recovery after endurance exercise or high-intensity interval training or skill-based sports, cold water immersion seems to be beneficial for reducing muscle soreness and potentially speeding up recovery without negatively impacting those specific adaptations.
Okay, so context matters. Any safety warnings?
Absolutely. It's not for everyone. Anyone with cardiovascular issues, heart disease, Raynaud's phenomenon should definitely talk to their doctor first. The sudden cold can cause spikes in blood pressure and heart rate. Listen to your body. If you feel dizzy, extremely uncomfortable, or have uncontrollable gasping, a cold shock response, get out safely. Ease into it. Maybe start with just splashing cold water on your face and hands, then gradually increase exposure.
Good advice. Okay, we've covered light, movement, rest, reflection, even cold. What's the final piece of this daily reset puzzle? Probably the most obvious one, but maybe the most neglected.
You guessed it.
Yeah.
Sleep. It really is the bedrock upon which all these other habits rest. It's not just passive downtime. It's a highly active, absolutely critical state for repair, regulation, and integration across your entire system.
Immune system, hormones, nervous system.
All of them rely heavily on sleep. Optimizing sleep has massive downstream effects on everything from memory and mood to cellular health. It's governed by 2 main systems. That circadian rhythm we talked about, driven by light cues, and something called the sleep homeostat, which basically tracks how long you've been awake and builds up sleep pressure.
So what's actually going on in the brain during sleep that makes it so essential? We mentioned memory consolidation.
Yes, during different sleep stages, especially deep, slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, the brain is incredibly busy. It's replaying experiences, strengthening important neural connections, pruning away less important ones. This is fundamental for learning and solidifying memories. Sleep is also crucial for emotional regulation. It helps reset the balance between your emotional centers, like the amygdala, and your rational prefrontal cortex.
So not enough sleep makes you more emotionally reactive, less rational.
Exactly. You lose that prefrontal control. Quality sleep restores that balance, helping you manage stress and impulses much better.
And beyond the brain, how does sleep impact overall physical health?
It's huge. Sleep is when your body does major hormonal regulation. Melatonin for sleep itself, but also cortisol rhythm, insulin sensitivity, growth hormone release for repair, leptin and ghrelin for appetite control.
Messing with sleep messes with all those hormones?
Absolutely. Leads to fatigue, irritability, metabolic problems, increased risk for all sorts of chronic diseases. And there's the glymphatic system, too, the brain's waste clearance system.
Like taking out the trash?
Kind of, yeah. It uses cerebrospinal fluid to flush out metabolic byproducts that accumulate during waking hours. This system is most active during deep sleep. Chronic sleep deprivation impairs this cleanup process, which is thought to contribute to neurodegenerative diseases over the long term.
Okay, so sleep is non-negotiable. What are the key action steps for you, the listener, to improve sleep hygiene? We hear about consistency.
That's number one. Going to bed and waking up around the same time, even on weekends, anchors your circadian rhythm.
And light exposure again.
Crucial. But this time it's about avoiding bright light, especially blue light from screens in the hour or two before bed. That light suppresses melatonin release.
Keep the bedroom cool, dark, and quiet.
Yes, those environmental factors signal safety and promote the natural drop in body temperature associated with sleep onset. Aim for cool, like maybe 60, 67 degrees Fahrenheit or 15, 19 Celsius,
Yeah.
and see how it all connects. That morning sunlight we started with, that sets your clock for proper melatonin release at night.
Right. Full circle.
And the cold exposure we just discussed. Doing it late in the day or evening can actually interfere with sleep.
Because it raises core body temperature.
Exactly. Your body needs to cool down to initiate sleep. So cold exposure is generally best done earlier in the day, morning or afternoon, to avoid disrupting that natural temperature rhythm.
Wow. Okay, so putting it all together, what's the big picture for someone listening? We've gone through light, movement, NSDR, journaling, cold, sleep. It feels like a powerful toolkit for really changing your daily experience.
It really is. And the beauty is how interconnected they all are. Each habit supports the others. Morning light improves sleep. Sleep improves energy for movement. Movement improves stress resilience. NSDR helps consolidate learning.
Yeah.
It's synergistic. But the key takeaway, I think, is that knowledge needs action. And consistency trumps intensity almost every time. Start small. Pick one thing that resonates. Notice how your body responds. And of course, if you have any health conditions, always check in with your doctor before making big changes, especially with things like cold exposure.
Yeah, maybe just try adding 5 minutes of morning sunlight or a 10-minute walk or 5 minutes of journaling. See how that feels.
Exactly. See how integrating even one or two might start a positive ripple effect.
So, the final thought for you listening, imagine the cumulative effect. Imagine consistently honoring these fundamental biological needs for light, for movement, for rest, for processing your thoughts, for resilience. How might weaving these resets into your daily rhythm transform not just how you feel moment to moment, your energy, your clarity, but how effectively you show up for everything else? For challenges, for opportunities. What's one small step, one habit you could start today?